Welcome in, college baseball central fans. Today we've got a special guest. LSU head coach Jay Johnson's taking a break from reloading the LSU roster to sit down with us after a historic season. Coach, thanks for taking the time for us today.
Absolutely. Good to see you, Alex.
We'll see you too. Hey, Coach, can you talk a little bit about what this past season meant, not just for you personally, but for the program as a whole?
Yeah, I mean, personally, it's everything you dream about. You want to win a national championship as a head coach and have so much respect for doing it because it's so hard to do. With as many great programs, great players, the competition is better today in college baseball than it's ever been. So, personally, very, very meaningful. And I think the great part about being at LSU is there's not a program in the country that more people care about than LSU baseball and Tiger fans everywhere, and that was evident by how they showed up in Omaha, both for the first part of the tournament and then for the CWS finals. And want to give a quick shout out to all of them for making the trip and making a great home field advantage for the Tigers in Omaha. And so I think it's meaningful there. And then just we have a lot of pride, here as an athletic department. Is incredibly meaningful.
Yeah, Coach, you said, I think it was the last season or season before, you said that you wanted to win a national championship more than you wanted to breathe. How do you keep that edge after accomplishing that goal?
Yeah, it hasn't been hard. I think when you look at the SEC and SEC baseball, the number of good players, the number of good programs, I think for me, it's just as simple as honoring the process of what I believe it takes to get our program there. It's a recommitment, to doing the right things every day, whether it's recruiting, developing, staying focused on the task at hand, and then continually repeating those. And so, just kind of, I'm old enough now, I think, have enough experience under my belt to realize, your past successes don't help you at all in the future. You kind of have to keep reinvesting in that process. And I enjoyed it. I enjoy being in Omaha more than anywhere else. It's a really special place. And you're not going to win a national championship every year, but, it would be my goal that, can we do the best job we possibly can to put ourselves in position, to win a national championship. And that takes every day, of the year and frankly, years before to be able to accomplish that.
Yeah, we've seen the previous two national champions come out the next season and then miss the NCAA tournament. How do you keep LSU from becoming the third in a row to do that?
Well, I think, honestly, it's not easier. It's not as far fetched as people would think. And I think it would probably only happen in our league because the competitiveness of our league, I believe, is on another planet right now than the rest of college baseball. And it's like the third time, and we've only been here for like 4 minutes that I've said that. So that it's true. I think there's one element that you can't control. And part of that is like it takes old, experienced, talented players to get to the point where you can actually do it, meaning win the national championship nowadays. And then to get to that point, you're going to lose some really, really key pieces, and that's happened to those programs that you previously mentioned, and it's happening to us. Obviously Paul Skeens, Dylan Cruz, Trey Morgan, Cade Beloso, Gavin Dugas, Ty Floyd, Riley Cooper, on and on and on. So we have a lot to replace too. I think as far as the controllable things of attitude, concentration, effort, improvement on a daily basis, investing in, this time right now, recruiting to make sure that we're adding the pieces we can to, again, put ourselves in the best position to compete for it. Again, like I'm very confident in what we're doing there, but it's a daily effort, and you almost have to double your efforts in terms of your commitment. And that challenge will be no different for us.
As you just kind of alluded to there, you had two of the most talented players to ever play for LSU in Paul and Dylan. Can you talk a little bit about what those players meant, not just to last year's team, but to the program as a whole?
Everything. I think, when you're looking at Paul's one season here on the field, you can't do it any better than that. It was as dominating a pitcher as I've ever seen in college baseball. And I got a stat right before the draft, like it was like in 48.5% of his innings, so almost half his innings, he went 3 up, 3 down this year. Never even heard of anything like that. So real credit to Paul. And then Dylan, you're looking at, one of the most consistent performers over a 3-year period as we've ever seen at such a high level. I mean, he was on base every game of last season. I think he was on base like, I don't know, something absurd like 9 or 10 times in 2 games of a super regional, when it matters the most. Just a special, special player. Now, that's only part of the story for both those guys. Along with Gavin Dugas, they were the leaders of our team. And both of them have this unbelievable high character to them as well, that they brought their best every single day. And that just raised the level of everybody else in the program. And when you have those types of players that exhibit the leadership that Paul and Dylan did, you get a really high level team, not just in talent, but in terms of how they were functioning both mentally and physically. And those guys deserve a lot of credit for that.
Yeah, you had the headliners, Paul and Dylan, but you also had program guys, like you mentioned, Gavin Dugas, and Cade Beloso. How do you replace, their leadership and their experience?
I think the experience part is tough. I mean, that's when you look at those two, that's 5 years or 4.5 years because of COVID of college baseball. Wouldn't have been there this year if it wasn't for COVID. That type of thing. Had successes, had failures. So most importantly, what they built up is this ability to respond to whatever was going on, both success or failure, in a very mature manner, and in their own way led our team in that regard. And they just became really, really good players. And I think if I'm going to hang my hat on something that I'm super proud of, is our team remained a team, largely because of those old players policing that and managing that. But you're looking at some serious improvement that has taken place over the last 2 years. I mean, I think Cade Beloso hit like 229 or something like that in 2021. I mean, and if it wasn't for Paul Skeen's performance, he might have been the MVP of the College World Series. And, Gavin Dugas, had 17 or 18 homers, but he also learned and played a new position this year. And, so you're talking about some real serious development. Ty Floyd, was not a weekend starter in the middle of last season. And then, he's your clear-cut number 2. He's an undefeated pitcher for an entire college baseball season and SEC schedule, breaking strikeout records in the College World Series final. So I loved all those guys, and I'm just so proud of the development and improvement they've had over the last 2 years.
Do you have somebody on the team that can replace Gavin's 30 hit by pitches?
I hope there's somebody in there. We definitely love that. Those free bases often turn into runs, and the hit by pitch is a big part of our offense. And that was like nothing I've ever seen over 2 years. The guy was just a ball magnet, and he had some stretches where if they threw it over the plate, it was a double or a homer, and if they didn't, he usually ended up getting hit by the pitch. So I'm really happy for him, and believe it or not, that added some value to him in the draft. I mean, pro baseball and all of baseball is really about runs. Can you help your team score runs, or can you help them save runs? And with his ability to drive the baseball and get on base, I mean, he was probably the top senior sign in the draft, and I'm very proud of him for that and excited to see his future.
Who are you looking at this season on your current team to really, kind of hold the standard of LSU baseball?
Yeah, I'm excited about this year and this team. I think, we were fortunate, to get a couple older players back again. The sign-in deadline's not till this afternoon. So we'll see with a couple of the drafted guys. But, Hayden Travinsky coming back is a big deal. I think if we can keep him healthy for a full season from a production standpoint, he can be one of the, the best hitters in the SEC and in college baseball. When we were playing our best, he was certainly that for us, hitting and clean up, behind Dylan and Tommy and Trey. Alex Milazzo, great leader, so having both those guys back As older players at that position is good. And then, we're going to get Brady Neal back, who was the starter for most of the season. Looking for some improvement out of him, both, just the natural improvement of being in their second year in the program. Paxton Kling, saw him play last night up in the Cape Cod League, played great. Jared Jones to evolve, as a more mature hitter. And I say that with great respect, for he just hit over 300 as a freshman with 15 or 16 homers. We're always trying to get better here. Obviously excited to have Tommy White back, in the middle of our order again. Great strides that he took transferring from NC State to LSU in terms of his strike zone discipline and cutting down on the strikeouts, and his clutch hitting ability is as good as really any player you would ever see. So I like those pieces, and then it's just about them taking a step forward. We're not quite done yet with putting together the team, but we like where we're headed with that. Really excited about this pitching staff. I know you may not have the ever have somebody like Paul Skeens again in terms of dominance, but in terms of depth and left-handed to right-handed balance, I think we're moving into a good spot. In looking at that group, I think Thatcher Hurd's got a real chance to be a great leader of the pitching staff. Nate Ackenhausen, great performance in the College World Series against Tennessee coming back. So you have two older guys that were super key to this team's success. Gavin Guidry, I'm just going to try to move back and be a two-way player again, but closing out, the regional, closing out the 2 games in the regional, closing out game 2 of the super regional, pitched 4 times in Omaha. So just really excited about that group, and, and having Coach Yeski in to work with those guys. I think it's a perfect storm.
Yeah, you've been able to add some really talented players in the transfer portal, again this year. Are you done adding players? Are there still some areas of the team that you're looking to maybe bolster a little bit?
Yeah, we're close to being wrapped up. Not quite wrapped up, but it'll be sooner, here rather than later. And just feel good about the players that we've added. I think they'll blend well in both, ability. They'll blend well in chemistry. High character guys as well. That will mix with this group and form their own identity. Something that we'll talk about a lot is you want to emulate some of the things that were real positive out of this team and carry them forward as program standards. And then some of the most important thing, or one of the most important things this group will have to do, is kind of forget last year's team, and move on and write their own identity. And I'm excited to dive into that with them as we get into fall workouts.
Yeah, and this year, you're replacing 3/4 of your defense up the middle. Everybody talks about defense up the middle is so important. I mean, you have a 3-year starter in Jordan Thompson, right? Gavin Dugas, Dylan Cruz, there, up the middle. So, who are the kind of the guys that you're looking at to fill those shoes?
Yeah, I think and again, that shouldn't be understated, the contribution that those guys made. We were probably as experienced as any team in the country, up the middle of the field this year. But having Brady back behind the plate and healthy, Hayden and Alex, you feel great about the catching thing. In the middle infield, we have a number of good options. Michael Braswell is transferring from South Carolina. He played very good against us, on both sides of the ball. I think there's some things offensively that he'll benefit from being a part of our program, and we can help him on that side. But I'm excited about, giving him opportunities at shortstop. I mentioned having Gavin Guidry back, in the two-way mix as well. And we have some guys that we're coming in that we really like. A couple infielders. Stephen Milam had a chance to be a good draft and was not. And then Austin Rolig from California, shortstop, that is definitely a true shortstop, type guy that's had a terrific summer, playing in Utah. Ben Napolt, a returning player that can play all around the field. We won pretty much every game that he played in this year. So we have some good options, and we're not going to close ourselves off to anything. Ryan Kacherik is another freshman, highly touted guy. So we feel like we really improved our depth in the infield, and I'm excited. Like, that list of names is guys that are, going to now be around the program for a couple years, and excited to build on the skills that they bring to the table. I mean, Paxton Kling, in my opinion, is an elite defensive center fielder. Mac Bingham transferring from Arizona was also an elite defensive center fielder. Josh Pearson's a great outfielder. So I feel really good about the construction of the defense. I think, our offense will be predicated by how some of those guys that were just on the cusp of being the guys that they take a good leap forward in their development. We're not going to ask any of them to be Dylan Cruz, because that's impossible. But if they're all, the best version of themselves, I feel really good about where that can go. It's kind of the old Moneyball thing. You don't replace Jason Giambi at the time with one guy, you replace him with three guys. I feel like this team's going to have the ability to do that.
So you've mentioned Gavin Guidry, a couple of times now, and so the plan is for him to play the field and to pitch.
Yeah, we're certainly going to try that. I mean, I don't know that there was a more important pitcher to our staff out of the bullpen, at the back part of the season. I mean, Riley Cooper was terrific in Omaha. Again, had his own case to be the CWS MVP. Getting a win and 3 saves or whatever that was. But we put Gavin in the highest leverage of moments. I think the biggest win of our season was the regular season was the second game at South Carolina. We threw him in there and big save on a comeback win, closed out games throughout the SEC, closed out 2 against Oregon State in the regional on back-to-back days, closed out the super regional winner, was excellent, out of the bullpen against, both Wake Forest and then Florida in the finals. And so we really value that piece or the contribution he makes on the pitching side of it. But he's fast and he's athletic and he's got good hands in the infield. And we're trying to gain some weight right now. He's been totally sold out to the weight room since we've gotten back from Omaha. So his body can withstand the possibility of being a two-way player. And then we'll kind of see how it goes, from that point forward. And we'll do what's best for him and what's best for the team.
So when you're looking at guys in the transfer portal, what is kind of the prototype? What kind of guys are you looking for?
I think they have to fit. They have to fit really well. I think, we got a lot of attention for this over the last couple of years because we got some of the best guys. I mean, Jacob Berry and Tyler McManus and Eric Reiselman the year before. We really needed a catcher at the time in Tyler McManus. Jacob was, the best hitter in the country. At least he was the first college player drafted in the 22 draft. And you needed somebody to protect Dylan Cruz. So it has to kind of be a specific fit. Then last year, obviously, if we were going to contend for a national championship, we needed aces. We needed guys that could go up against the best pitchers in the country and win. And we got all of that and more with Paul. And really outside of a couple of outings, Thatcher Hurd was the same for us, whether he was starting or coming out of the bullpen, and really excited about the direction he's heading for this year. So they kind of have to fit within the group that we believe that we have that's going to we can project out their development. And a lot of players in their second year playing for our coaching staff is when they make their biggest leap. And so you look at a guy like Ethan Fry, Paxton Kling, Brady Neal, Jared Jones, we're counting on those guys to make a leap in their development. And then you look around and go like, hey, what do you need? Well, I mean, Jordan Thompson has started every game essentially at shortstop for me for 2 years. We needed somebody we felt like could play shortstop. And we feel like we have really good options there. I'm really excited about Michael Braswell, as I said. I'm really excited about Stephen Milam. I'm really excited about Austin Rolig, Ryan Kacharik. I think we have a number of incoming players that can do that. But as far as the portal, it's just got to fit on the pitching side of it. We had 8 pitchers drafted, in this draft. It doesn't mean 8 pitchers are going to sign, but we had 8 pitchers drafted. So, adding 3 or 4 of those guys will be really, really beneficial for us. Really excited about Justin Lohr from Xavier. Really excited about Gage Jump. I thought he was one of the best pitchers in the country in high school. And, once he entered the portal, we made it a priority. He missed last year because of Tommy John surgery, but he's going to be about 20 months clear at the start of the season. And I think he'll be a highly impactful pitcher for us.
So how do you balance, the addition of transfer portal guys with high school players?
Well, you got to be deliberate in what you're doing. I mean, we only signed 8 high school players in this recruiting cycle, and we like all of them. I think that's the key. You look at Jake Brown, Kate Anderson. I mean, that's Cameron Johnson. Hopefully we got a few hours through to get to the draft deadline here. But, that's premium left-handed pitching. And I think in Jake's case for sure, and maybe even Cade's, you may have some two-way players. And everybody knows how I like athletic left-handed hitting position players. And so you have that. Then you got 3 guys that I mentioned already that can really defend in the infield, and then you got a couple left-handed hitting outfielders. So we really like that high school class, but we set the bar pretty high, and we did a really nice job of keeping them through the draft. And then you mix in those returning players that you look to make a leap in this next year with us, and then you kind of assess where you're at. And then we haven't gone and gotten or really turned over a roster in terms of transfer portal. We've just been really successful in getting the right players. And then it's about taking a collection of talent and then making it a team. And we're super, super deliberate about that. And, anybody that has been in our program for 2 years as a player, they know the importance of placing the needs of the team above their own. And that's something that, both of the last 2 teams in 22 and 23 should be really proud of, because they definitely did that.
So this summer's been a little bit different for you because you've only had to replace one person on your staff instead of the entire staff. Has having Coach Jordan around, helping out with the recruiting this summer, how's that been?
Been great. Yeah. And very excited about our staff. I mean, we have had some turnover, obviously, with a couple guys, moving on, but Josh has done a great job. I think the other day we had a prominent player on campus, and I just got a call from the parent of that player, and just to say, hey, you don't maybe hear these things as much as you want to, but like, this guy Josh Jordan is outstanding. And he works his tail off, super professional in his approach, really good communicator, connects well with the players. Very excited to have him back for another year. I don't know that I'll keep him very long. I think he's going to be a Power 5 head coach here really soon. And that's good for him. We're excited to add Terry Rooney to our staff, who was at LSU in the mid 2000s, or when Coach Maneri first came here. Happy to have, Mark Wanaka back again with me and helping on the positioning and the offensive side of things. And then, getting Coach Yeski back, after our time together at Arizona, and having familiarity with him is going to be a real positive thing. And I think he's well positioned, to help this really good group of pitchers, continue to improve well. And if you're functioning from the mound, you're giving yourself a chance to win a lot of games. And I think we're going to be able to do that.
Well, Coach, I don't want to take up any more of your time. You've been very generous with it, and I appreciate that. Congratulations. I hadn't been able to talk to you since Omaha, so congratulations on that. It was a blast to be there and to watch you guys perform. And, I'm looking forward to this coming season.
Yes, sir. Thanks, Alex. Appreciate talking to you.
All right.